fifth grade. Thanks for joining me again. We are working on lesson 91 of grammar. We are on page 487. You need to have your book. You need to have read over the lesson and looked at the lesson explanation on Jupiter. Today we're going to be talking about subject-verb agreement part 3. To start with, our vocabulary today, our first word is obfuscate. That's really hard for me to say. Obfuscate. To obfuscate is to confuse or make unclear. The newspaper article actually obfuscated the situation surrounding the murder case. From the verb, we get the noun obfuscation. See how hard that is to say? Obfuscation. Obfuscation is confusion or muddling. The suspect's obfuscation of the facts prevented anyone from knowing the truth. Okay. So, we're continuing with subject-verb agreement. Remember that our subject and our verb need to agree in person and number. This can be difficult with indefinite pronouns. So, if you can't remember indefinite pronouns, you need to look back on lesson 83. Indefinite pronouns, some of them are singular, some of them are plural, and some are either. They're singular in cases, they're plural in cases, and the meaning of the sentence is what decides if they're singular or plural. You do need to match your pronoun, your indefinite pronoun, and the verb in number. So if you have a singular indefinite pronoun, you need to be using a singular verb. If you have a plural indefinite pronoun, you need to use a plural verb. Some of the examples they use: singular, everybody, everybody is welcome. Plural, few are poisonous. Singular, and then we have one that can be either. Some is an indefinite pronoun that can be either singular or plural. Singular, some was gone. Plural, some were asleep. Okay? So you have to be really careful with your indefinite pronouns. I would strongly suggest that everybody reread lesson 83 and go over your indefinite pronouns pretty well so that you can match them to the correct verb. Another thing that can make subject-verb agreement difficult is prepositional phrase. Is a prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrases oftentimes occur between the subject and the verb, and it's very easy to confuse the object of a prepositional phrase for the subject of a sentence. So you have to be really careful. The best way to be able to know is to memorize your prepositions. You can recognize your prepositions, you can recognize a prepositional phrase, and you know that that prepositional phrase is not your subject and that your subject's not going to be in there. So, if you're able to do that mentally, that's really great. You can essentially just in your mind delete the prepositional phrase for the moment while you're searching for your subject of your sentence. If you're having trouble with that, use a simple diagram, right? Use a simple diagram to try and identify the subject of the sentence so that you're not confusing it with the object of a preposition. Okay. Contractions. Contractions are when we put together, it's usually a verb, and another word. Sometimes it's a negative word, the word not. Sometimes it can be helping verbs that we put together, or in other cases there's two words that we put together to make one word. We take out some letters and we use an apostrophe. We have to make sure that our contractions, oftentimes because they are the verb, match our subject-verb agreement in person and number. So you have some examples here. And the suggestion is that if you're having a little bit of trouble, split it up. Try not using a contraction, and then you should be able to match the verb a little bit better. So we have the pelican is not on the pier. Okay, so pelican is singular, is singular, so we're going to use isn't. The pelicans aren't on the pier, right? Pelicans is plural, so we have to use are, the plural verb, but we're using the negative aren't, okay? Some errors to avoid, or one error to avoid that's pretty important. The contraction theirs, THERE apostrophe S, that is a contraction that can either mean there is or there has. Okay, so it can either be in the present tense or it's in the past tense. And it's either to be, is, or it is to have, has. Okay, so you do really have to be careful with that guy. Theirs can only be used with singular subjects. Okay, you can't use it for plural subjects. Their example, there is only one shoe here. So shoe is the subject, it's singular, we can use theirs. There's been a mistake. There has been a mistake. Okay, so the mistake is the subject, theirs is appropriate. We can't say there's 2 pelicans on the pier because we are saying there is 2 pelicans on the pier. We don't want to say is because there's 2 pelicans. It's plural. We want to use are. There are 2 pelicans on the pier. Okay? And then the last thing is ain't is not a word. AIN apostrophe T is not a word, and we don't use it. We don't write it. We don't say it. It's either a mistake for is not, isn't, which would be the singular, or are not, aren't, which would be the plural. So please don't use it. So let's look at our practice. So our practice is on page 489. We're going to choose the correct verb form or contraction for each sentence. Sentence A, the librarian exclaimed, "You aren't going to believe this." Right. So we're going to choose aren't because ain't is not a word. The librarian exclaimed, "You aren't going to believe this." So I think I just said a moment ago that aren't is plural. Aren't can be plural. Aren't can also be singular. Sorry about that. B, someone with flowers are at the door. Okay, so here's a situation where it's good for us to mentally delete our prepositional phrases. With flowers is a prepositional phrase, not the subject. At the door, prepositional phrase. Door is not the subject. That leaves us someone. Someone is the subject of the sentence. Someone is a singular indefinite pronoun. So someone with flowers is at the door. The dogs and their owner weren't trespassing. Here we have a compound subject, dogs, owners. Our compound subject is conjoined with the conjunction and. When we have a compound subject conjoined by and, we treat it as plural. So we're going to say the dogs and their owner weren't trespassing. Okay. There are only 2 slices left. Okay. So slices is our subject and it's plural. So we can't use theirs. We have to use there are only 2 slices left. E is asking us, each of the students has something to do. Okay, so we want to look at our prepositional phrases first and see if there are any that we can get rid of. Of the students is a prepositional phrase. We're going to mentally just ignore that for right now. Our indefinite pronoun each is the subject of our sentence, right? So each of the students has something to do. Nope, that's totally wrong. Wait, no, it's not. It's right. Sorry. All right. So I hope this has been helpful. Unfortunately, I feel like it might have been more confusing. And if it is, then what has happened is a real life lesson in our vocabulary. So, either way, have a great day, guys. Good luck with your lesson. I'll see you here tomorrow for more grammar. Bye.